And that's how I became the first member secretary of the Planning Commission. So I have worked with politicians. So when Narasimha called me in May or June 91, I was not totally alien to working with the politician. But I was told I was not the first choice of Narasimha for the finance minister job. Probably the job was offered to Dr. I.C. Patel, who was a great friend of mine and a great economist. He somehow declined, and therefore Mr. Dr. Alexander, who was advising the Prime Minister, he said I should be approached for the finance minister job. So Dr. Alexander came and saw me. I had just come back from Holland. I was sleeping. So my wife said, I cannot be disturbed. But Dr. Alexander said, well, it's urgent. And therefore he came and told me that this is what the Prime Minister was thinking. I was then the chairman of the University Grants Commission. And the next morning, I went to the office as usual. Narasimha was searching for me, and he traced me to the UGC, and he said, where are you? I said, I am in the UGC. He said, hasn't Dr. Alexander mentioned to you what we have for you? I said, I didn't take him very seriously. And Narasimha said, no, you go and get dressed up and come for the swearing-in ceremony. So that's how I became the finance minister. So people say I was accidental Prime Minister. I was also accidental finance minister. And Narasimha called me and I met him. I said to him that the country is in great difficulties. It requires hard thinking and very tough decision-making process to get the country out of the crisis that she was in. Narasimha said, I don't understand all this, but we will give you a free hand with the understanding that if the things go well, we will all take credit. But if the things go wrong, well, you will be the scapegoat. I said, I accept that, but you will have to back me. And Narasimha did back me on every stage. In fact, we changed the rules of the game. Previously, issues like devaluation were never discussed between the Prime Minister and the Finance Minister alone. I told Narasimha that if you take this matter to the cabinet, it will never pass the cabinet. Because I was aware of the fact that in 1964, when the issue of devaluation came up in the government of India, 3 years were lost in debating whether we should devalue or not. But Narasimha was so graceful. He said, we will do away with the cabinet approval. You write a handwritten note and I will endorse it, and that's enough. And that's how things worked out. I still have that handwritten note where Narasimha signed saying we can go ahead with devaluation without going to the cabinet. Now, that was an unusual thing for the Prime Minister, but Narasimha backed me. But there were times when he also developed nervousness, and the then President of India, Mr. Venkataraman, was not in favor of devaluing the rupee. And he called me and he said, you are planning to do this, but you are a government which doesn't have a majority, which does not have the support of the majority in Parliament, and therefore you should not go this way till you have earned the vote of confidence. I told the President, Mr. President, if you want me to wait till we have sought the vote of confidence, there will be nothing to seek the vote for. In the meanwhile, the foreign exchange reserves had nearly disappeared, and our reserves were no more than 2 weeks due. We couldn't last more than 2 weeks, and therefore I told the President that we have to go ahead, and therefore Narasimha Rao ji allowed me to go ahead. But we devised a strategy that there would be two-stage devaluation. I wanted to test the waters, what would be the country's reaction. So first dose was a mild dose, but second dose was a tougher dose. But some people advised Narasimha Rao ji that this would be bad for the country, and he, in the morning when the second dose was to be implemented, it turned out that Narasimha Rao ji called me and he said, we cannot go ahead with this second step, devaluation. I had to instruct the governor of the Reserve Bank because I couldn't disobey the Prime Minister, and I rang up Dr. Rangarajan, who was the Deputy Governor in charge of foreign exchange. I told him the Prime Minister wants that we should not have the second stage devaluation. But Rangarajan told me, whatever you may say, I have shot the bolt, I have already announced the raid. So this was a case of a country being helped even when it didn't want to help itself. So these are all incidents of life. My dealing with politicians, I have enjoyed working with all the important dignitaries. I worked very closely with Morarji Bhai. I worked very closely with Chaudhry Charan Singh, and also later on with Chandrasekhar ji. In fact, Chandrasekhar ji called me from Geneva that I should come back and take over as economic advisor to the Prime Minister. I came back, and for some months I was both the chairman of the University Grants Commission as well as the advisor to the Prime Minister. But there was no serious dialogue in those turbulent times about economic policy making because the country was in political turmoil. So the reform agenda had to wait till a more stable government came, which happened when Narasimha Rao ji became the Prime Minister, and we were able to implement a reform program which has changed the fortunes of the country. But even there were problems. Although Narasimha Rao ji gave me full support, when it came to the approval of the industrial licensing policy, industrial policy, there was strong opposition in the cabinet. Important members of the cabinet were opposed to it, and Narasimha Rao ji turned to me and said, "What have you to say?" And I started by saying, "Mr. Prime Minister, we are doing nothing new. It is all there in the agenda for the government, written by no less a person than Rajiv Gandhi. So we are implementing what Rajiv Gandhi had always intended if he came back as the Prime Minister." And as we came out, Arjun Singh ji called me and he said, "You seem to have studied our election manifesto much more carefully than we have done." So, despite serious objections about the industrial policy, the cabinet approved the draft. Jairam was asked to write what would be useful phraseology, but in Parliament there was serious doubts about wisdom of what we were doing. And when the matter came before the parliamentary committee, Congress Parliamentary Party, there was a very strong opposition. And there were two persons who stood to support me. One was Manishankar Iyer, then the other was Nathuram Mirdaji. Nathuram Mirdaji said, "Gentlemen, you may be opposing this thing, but you will regret it if you do not go the path that Manmohan Singh has suggested." So I am very grateful to Manishankar Iyer for the two-member team that saved the reform process. So life has been a smooth sailing, but there were many hiccups in the path and some good luck, but a lot of hard work. And as finance minister, I used to meet the gentlemen and ladies of the press regularly. I had very good relation, and by and large, the country followed what we had presented as the remedy for the crisis of 91.
Given that 91 really turned out to be a turning point for the economy of a kind that we couldn't have imagined, the lesson here is we need accidental finance ministers to do this kind of a magical turning around that India really did. Dr. Singh, as the last thing, I would like to have you speculate a little bit about India's future. What do you expect? Where are we headed to? On the economy? Are you optimistic? Are you pessimistic? Are we at another juncture where we need major decisions? Just your thoughts.
Well, I have always been reminded of a couplet from Iqbal about the future of our country, which Mr. P.N. Aksar used to narrate to me very often whenever we were in difficulties. And that couplet is something like this: मिट गए मिस्र यूनान और रोमा, लेकिन कायम है अब तक नामो निशान हमारा। कुछ बात है कि हस्ती मिटती नहीं हमारी, सदियों रहा है दुश्मन दौरे ज़मां हमारा। So, despite all the hiccups, hurdles, I have no doubt that India will get its action right, that despite the difficulties that may be on the horizon, this country is destined to be a major powerhouse of the global economy. That's what I had stated in my first budget speech. And I said, quoting Victor Hugo, "No power on earth can stop an idea whose time has come." And I said, I suggest to this august house that now is the time, and I believe that there will be no power on earth can stop an idea whose time has come, and the emergence of India as a major global power is one such idea whose time has come. Therefore, I have always believed at a time when India was in very severe crisis that we will overcome, we will prevail, and with determination, I think we convert the crisis of 91 into a great opportunity to reform the economy, and the results are there for everyone to see. There have been several changes of government, but basically the broad thrust of economic policy has not changed in the last 25 years. And the result is that India is one of the few countries for 25 years it has an average growth rate of 6.7 to 7%. We could do more, and we shall do more. I sincerely hope and believe that India is destined to achieve its destiny. That's my belief. It was a belief which sustained me as a bureaucrat, as a finance minister, and as prime minister. And I stand by that India is destined to be a major powerhouse of the global economy.
Stay ahead with our cutting-edge news app. Instantly access the latest shorts in just 1 minute and breaking news in just 50 words. Download now for a smarter, faster news experience.